Hi everybody, this is Aisha. I hope everybody is doing super well. So today we're going to talk about glucose ketone index, and I know you're all like, what is that? Well, basically the things that we're going to talk about is, are you in an optimal range and what do you want to achieve? So you might not have thought about that, but at the same time you might not be achieving the results which you're hoping to. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what this is all about. So first, in order to figure out our GKI, the glucose ketone index, we need to do two things. First, we need to take our blood glucose level and our blood ketone level. Now, you can't do this with a urine stick because a urine stick kind of just says yay or nay. You know, if you're in ketosis, it doesn't tell you exactly what level, so it won't be accurate here. So you need a blood ketone level. So that's what I've done here. These are not fasting. These are randomly. It was like 1:36 p.m. this afternoon on the 9th of January. So my glucose level at that time was 83 and my ketone level at that time was 4.3. Now, how do I figure out my GKI? Basically, I have to take the converted number because I'm using a US meter, and it comes to 4.6 for the glucose level. So you take the glucose level and you divide it by the blood ketone level, and it gives you the ratio, right? And I'm not going to go into the big graphs and things like that. That's just going to make it difficult for everybody. So just know that this is the glucose ketone index, which is a ratio. Okay, it's basically where they intersect on the graph. And mine is 1.07. And why are these values important? Now, we're going to go into a little bit more in the next slide, but let's briefly hit on this. So if your ratio is greater than 9, then you're generally not in ketosis, and I'll tell you why in a minute. If your GKI is between 6 to 9, right here, it's a low level of ketosis. This is usually where beginners are, and it's okay for weight loss. It's okay also for maintenance and overall good health. A GKI of 3 to 6 is a moderate level of ketosis. It's excellent for healing metabolic issues like insulin resistance, diabetes, lowering cholesterol, and working on your weight. So a GKI of less than 3 is a high level of ketosis, and you'll notice that the numbers keep going down further, right? So that's how it works. The lower the number is, the more deep benefits that can come, like less than 3 is for deep healing and disease prevention or control, like epilepsy. Now, they do suggest that some cancers can be prevented. However, I have not seen a convincing study to say completely yes or no, but there are studies that are being conducted and they look hopeful anyways. So what affects the GKI? So now that you know the ranges, what affects it? How can we tweak our diet to get into the range and achieve our goal? So one thing we can do is fast, because fasting overall lowers your glucose level, and lowering your glucose level will stop spiking your insulin level, which will allow lipolysis to initiate and also kick into high gear. So fasting actually has a lot of benefits, which we can't go into in this video, but spacing out the times that you eat will overall reduce the amount of insulin and allow you to go into a deeper level of ketosis, which will positively affect your GKI. The next thing is nutrition, a low-carb diet. So we want to reduce our carbs and get them in the optimal level so that we're not spiking our glucose as much, right? So we're going to be very, very choosy about the kinds of carbs that we eat. We want to eat those which are nutrient-dense, which are fibrous, and which have excellent control over the glucose, okay? And we're going to do this in combination, obviously, with a high-fat diet, which is what we're doing when we talk about living a ketogenic lifestyle. The next thing is that stress. Stress is a major thing, you know. When we're stressed out, hormones like cortisol and epinephrine are released, and that can cause a rise in the blood sugar because we enter a sort of fight or flight mode. Now, if you're diabetic and you are on a ketogenic diet, you still have to worry about your levels. The reason is because even in diabetes, patients with good glucose levels, they can still get spikes when they're tired, when they're stressed out, when they're ill. It can still cause a rise, so you just need to keep a check on that if you're trying to come off of your medication and you're trying to regulate your insulin levels on your own, etc. So stress can definitely boost up those cortisol and epinephrine, so we want to control that. Now, exercise is something that also contributes to stress to the body. While we don't always feel it, but it does have an effect on us. It does boost up those steroids, okay? So we want to be careful. Now, how do we achieve the goal? Basically, what we need to do is eliminate the things we shouldn't eat, and we want to be able to enter in ketosis. Okay? When we enter in ketosis, that's actually a byproduct of the lowering of the insulin level. Now, I'm going to take 2 minutes and explain how this works. So let's say we're just getting started on the ketogenic diet. When we get started, usually our fasting glucose is in the 80s or so, maybe 90s, some maybe higher if they're pre-diabetic or insulin resistant. But even if not, chances are if you're overweight or obese, more than likely your insulin levels are a bit high. So as the insulin levels are higher, you cannot start breaking down fat because it's just the way chemistry works in the body, right? Biochemistry says whenever the insulin levels are high, then lipolysis, the breakdown of fat, stops. Okay? So when we stop spiking our insulin because we've stopped eating foods which spike our glucose, then and only then the insulin level will come down. Our glucose levels also will, obviously come down. And then ketosis will really get going. And as ketones start getting burned off for fat, when fat starts getting burned off, and ketones are actually the evidence, right? That's where you can say, yes, I've entered into fat burning, for example, because I have the evidence of ketones. You can say that's like the footprints that are left behind. So that is the strategy, and that's actually what happens. And so that's why some people take a little bit longer to get deep into ketosis, because they have higher insulin levels. And I know everyone is probably so tired of hearing this, but this is what it is. It takes longer for some people to reverse some of the metabolic damage that's been done so that they can get deeper into ketosis and feel the good benefits. And weight loss is actually, in my opinion, it's a side effect of getting healthier. Okay? Now, that's all I have today. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. So just want to recap for 1 minute. Let me go back. So as we're in our ketogenic lifestyle, so we need to think about what our goals are. Are we trying to lower our glucose or our insulin? Are we trying to lower our cholesterol? Are we trying to lower our blood pressure? We need to think about all of these things and what we hope to achieve. And then we're going to adjust our diet so that these numbers that you see on the screen will reflect our GKI that we're trying to aim for, which will give us the benefits that we see on this chart. So maybe take a picture of this chart and see how you can, positively affect your own GKI. If you figure out that you are like I'm actually 1 point, I don't know, what was it, 7? 1.07? Yeah, so 1.07. So mine is like really low, which is great, and that's what I'm hoping for. Okay, but if you're satisfied with 3 to 6, so then you can probably eat a looser diet than somebody who is aiming for this, because I know like epileptic patients, I talked to a neurologist recently, and he said that this ketogenic diet is really hard for his patients, which are usually kids that they can't treat with medication. So he said that this is really hard for us because getting kids to eat in a completely different way to control their epilepsy is really challenging. But I find that I perform the best whenever my GKI is less than 3. And I do well too on this level. I do well between these two levels. I feel my best. So that's what it's all about, is seeing where your body is starting to improve and also where you feel great. This is called the sweet spot. And later on, whenever you get to your maintenance level, you're going to find the GKI for you, which allows you to maintain yourself. And it might be a higher level of carbs or it might be the same. It just all depends on your activity levels and your own metabolism. All right, let me know if I can help you out. Have a great day.